From legendary shots that made Augusta explode to Green Jackets won in total chaos. These are the best moments of all time at the Masters. And first we start with number 35. You want to talk about clutch? Forget buzzer beaters and walk-offs. Charles Schwartzel redefined the word at Augusta in 2011. Heading into the final stretch, the leaderboard was chaos. Big names everywhere. Tiger was charging like it was 2005 again. Jason Day and Adam Scott were going toe-to-toe. Jeff Ogilvy was suddenly in the mix. And nobody, and I mean nobody, was talking about Charles Schwartzel. Until he started doing the impossible. He birdied 15. Okay, nice, solid. Then he birdied 16. Now heads are turning. Wait, is he making a move? Then comes 17. Another birdie, 3 in a row. The broadcast booth starts buzzing, fans on the grounds are pulling out their phones, and suddenly, Schwartzel's name is sitting right at the top of the leaderboard. By the time he reached the 18th tee, it was his tournament to win. Or lose. And what does he do? He stripes the drive, walks up to the green like it's just another Sunday round, lines up the putt, knowing that history is right there, staring him in the face, and drills it. 4 straight birdies to close. No one in the entire history of the Masters had ever done that to win the green jacket. At number 34, we've got the moment Phil Mickelson finally silenced the doubters and looked like he just won the lottery while doing it. By 2004, Phil wasn't just one of the best players in the world. He was the best player without a major. Over 40 tries. So many close calls. So much heartbreak. People had started to wonder if he was cursed. If he'd be one of those guys who never quite got there. But then came Augusta. Phil had clawed his way into a tie with Ernie Els going into the final hole. The pressure was insane. 1 hole to decide everything. And standing over an 18-foot birdie putt, with the weight of his entire career on his shoulders, Phil did what Phil does. He sank it. Center of the cup. No bounce, no drama, just pure magic. And then, that leap. Phil didn't just fist pump. He jumped. Arms in the air, feet off the ground, face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't even that high, but it was real. Pure joy after years of frustration. Coming in at number 33, and here we have probably the saddest moments in Masters history. Sometimes greatness isn't just about who wins. It's about the ones who got so close and never quite made it. Enter Tom Weiskopf. Tall, smooth swing, major champion, and one of the most naturally gifted players of his era. But at Augusta, the guy just couldn't catch a break. Weiskopf didn't just come close once or twice. He finished second at the Masters 4 times. That's not bad luck. That's a full-on heartbreak saga. He was runner-up in 1969, then again in 72, and again in 74. And, just for good measure, once more in 1975. 4 times he stood just behind the guy in the green jacket. 4 times he had to smile through the ceremony, shake hands, and walk away empty-handed while someone else made history. And here's the thing. Each one of those years, he played well enough to win. He was in it, right there. But Augusta has a funny way of testing your soul. And Weiskopf? He might have had one of the toughest relationships with that course of anyone in Masters history. He never slipped on the jacket, but he became a part of the story anyway. Not as the hero, but as the reminder of just how cruel this tournament can be. Let's shift gears for the next one, because at first it looked like just another veteran chasing one final shot at glory. But if you knew what was going on behind the scenes, this was something that breaks your heart. Ben Crenshaw walked into the 1995 Masters carrying more than just clubs. Just days earlier, his lifelong mentor and coach, Harvey Penick, had passed away. Crenshaw was devastated. He even broke down during the funeral. Nobody would have blamed him for skipping Augusta altogether, but he showed up. And what happened next? It felt like the course was carrying him. He wasn't even supposed to be a contender. He was 43, winless in over a year, and emotionally drained. But that week, Crenshaw played like a man on a mission. Every putt rolled true. Every bounce seemed to go his way. And after 4 rounds of inspired golf, he stood on the 18th green, 1 stroke ahead of Davis Love III, with a tap-in to win it all. He sank the putt, and then it hit him. He bent over, put his hands to his face, and sobbed. Full-body emotion. the kind of moment that makes Augusta feel holy. He nearly collapsed into the arms of his caddy, Carl Jackson, as if the entire week had finally caught up to him. Later, Crenshaw said it best. "I definitely had a couple of Harvey bounces. For some reason, it was my week." Here we are at number 31. And at first, nobody realized what was happening. Tiger had already won 3 majors in a row. Yeah, that's insane. But because they didn't all happen in the same calendar year, people weren't quite calling it a Grand Slam. Not yet. But Tiger, he had a different name for it. And one more major to go. When he arrived at Augusta in 2001, the buzz was there. But it didn't feel like pressure. It felt like inevitability. The US Open? Crushed it. The Open Championship? No problem. The PGA? Handled. All that remained was the Masters. And just like the others, Tiger played with a kind of cold, calculated focus that felt unfair. He wasn't out driving the field, he was out thinking it, outlasting it. Every swing looked like it had been pre-programmed. Every putt, perfect speed, perfect line. When he tapped in on 18 and claimed his second green jacket, the crowd erupted because they finally realized what he'd done. He hadn't just won the Masters, he'd completed the Tiger Slam, holding all 4 major titles at the same time. Something no one in the history of golf had ever done. Not Nicklaus, not Palmer, not Hogan, just Tiger. Next, number 30. There was a moment on Sunday in 1986 where something strange started happening. A noise, distant at first, started echoing through the trees at Augusta. Not polite applause, not a golf clap, a roar. And the closer it got to the 18th green, the more it started to sound like history was unfolding. Jack Nicklaus, 46 years old, written off by nearly everyone, was on a back 9 charge that felt like something out of a dream. He hadn't won a major in 6 years. Most people thought the Golden Bear's time had passed. But then came the final round, and he shot a ridiculous 65, that's 7 under, including a back 930, birdies at 10, 11, 13, 15. And then came 17, a birdie putt that looked impossible under pressure, until Jack drained it like it was a casual Sunday round at his home club. And then the celebration. That iconic putter raise, arm in the air, eyes wide, soaking it all in. He wasn't supposed to do this. He wasn't supposed to win again. But Jack didn't just win. He made time stand still and became the oldest Masters champion in history, claiming his 6th green jacket in the most dramatic way possible. On to the next one. You know those moments where a shot isn't just clutch? It feels like it carries the weight of an entire country? That was Sandy Lyle on the 18th hole at Augusta in 1988. Up to that point, no British player had ever slipped on the green jacket, not one. And Lyle? He was this close to being the first. But he had a problem, a big one. His drive on 18 had landed in a fairway bunker, not exactly where you want to be when you're tied for the lead at the Masters. What happened next? It wasn't just a good shot, it was a shot for the ages. He pulled a 7-iron and somehow blasted it out clean. It cleared the lip, soared toward the green, landed on the top tier, and then started rolling, slowly, teasingly, down the slope, picking up speed, tracking. It stopped 10 feet from the hole, and then, with every ounce of pressure on his shoulders, Sandy stepped up and drained the birdie putt, securing a one-shot win and writing his name in the history books as the first British golfer to ever win the Masters. Number 28 is a very special one. When the final putt dropped on the 18th green in 2021, the crowd cheered, but what happened next? That's what made this moment unforgettable. Hideki Matsuyama had just made history, becoming the first Japanese male golfer to ever win a major. And not just any major, the Masters. But here's the thing, he didn't celebrate with a fist pump or a roar. There were no tears, no theatrics. Instead, as Hideki quietly walked off the green, his caddy, Shota Hayafuji, removed his cap, turned back toward the course, and bowed. One small gesture, no words, just a deep bow of respect to Augusta, to the game, to the moment. It went viral almost instantly, not because it was flashy, but because it was perfect. It summed up everything the win meant. Not just for Hideki, but for Japan, for tradition, and for golf as a global game. Matsuyama's victory was more than a win. It was a cultural milestone, a moment that transcended sport. And it all ended with the most graceful mic drop in Masters history. And now we're with number 27, with probably one of the strangest things ever caught on camera. Louis Oosthuizen had been around Augusta long enough to know that the 16th hole can deliver magic or disaster. And on this sunny Sunday in 2016, something magical was about to happen, but not in the way anyone expected. He steps up to the tee, calm, focused. The crowd settles. The ball launches into the Georgia sky and lands cleanly on the green. It starts to track left, catching that famous slope. You know the one, and begins its slow, curling descent toward the hole. The murmurs start. The gallery rises. This thing looks perfect. But then, someone spots it. Another ball, sitting just short of the cup. In the way, completely still, a potential dream killer. You could feel 10,000 people holding their breath. His ball keeps rolling and smashes right into the other one. Everyone is silent. That has to be it. It's ruined, right? Wrong. The deflection somehow sends his ball directly into the hole. A hole-in-one off another player's ball. It was the kind of shot that made you laugh, cheer, and question if Louis had secretly been practicing bank shots at the local pool hall. Next, number 26. While some shots at Augusta are remembered because they're perfect, others, on the other hand, are remembered because they shouldn't have happened. And then there's this one. Phil Mickelson was standing in the pine straw on Augusta's 13th hole during the final round of the 2010 Masters, ball nestled in a mess of needles and dirt, trees everywhere, and no clear path to the green. For most people. But this is Phil. And when Phil sees chaos, he sees opportunity. The shot in front of him. A 6-iron, 200 yards, through a narrow gap in the trees no wider than a doorway, off an unstable lie with everything on the line. Any sane golfer would chip out, take the safe route. But Phil, he went for it. What happened next barely made sense. He launched a laser that zipped through the trees, somehow missed every branch, landed softly on the green, and rolled to a stop just a few feet from the cup. The crowd exploded. The commentators were stunned. And everyone watching at home had the same thought. He didn't just do that, did he? Phil didn't just go for it. He pulled off something that looked physically impossible and made it look easy. Number 25 might be the quietest Masters win, with the loudest backstory. When Patrick Reed slipped on the green jacket in 2018, it should have been the proudest moment of his career. But instead of roars and cheers echoing through Augusta, there was awkward silence. The applause? Soft. The crowd? Meh. And for a guy who just won one of golf's biggest prizes, Reed looked more like someone who crashed the party than hosted it. Why? Because Reed didn't just bring a scorecard to Augusta, he brought baggage. Old college teammates had accused him of cheating and stealing. He'd been kicked off the University of Georgia golf team. Even at Augusta State, where he led the team to 2 national titles, he reportedly wasn't exactly winning popularity contests. And the drama didn't stop there. Reed's own family wasn't even invited to the tournament. That's right, his parents and sister watched him win his first major from home. They lived just a few miles from the course. Oh, and then there's him. Brash, confident. Once said he was a top 5 player in the world when he hadn't even cracked the top 20. The kind of guy who celebrates hard, fist pumps louder, and walks like he's already won before he hits the first tee. So, when he held off Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler to win that Masters, yeah, it was clutch. But it was also complicated. Patrick Reed won the tournament. But if you listened closely, it sounded like Augusta wasn't quite sure how to feel about it. Coming in at number 24, what if I told you 2 of the greatest shots in Masters history didn't even count? No green jacket on the line, no leaderboard pressure, just 2 guys, a pond, and a little tradition that turned into something unforgettable. It happens every year during Masters practice rounds. On the par 3 16th, players try to skip the ball across the water. Most fail, a few get lucky. But in 2009, Vijay Singh did the impossible. He launched a ball that skipped across the pond like a stone. Once, twice, 3 times. It climbed the slope of the green, curled with the perfect speed, and dropped. A hole-in-one on a skipped shot. The crowd absolutely lost it. Someone yelled, "You'll never see that again." Except we did. Because 11 years later, in 2020, Jon Rahm walked up to the very same hole, on his birthday no less, and decided to give it a go. He wasn't just fooling around. He was about to create a shot so unreal it looked fake. He struck it clean. 3 skips. The ball glided up the green like it was magnetized to the flag. Then it started to break, rolling faster, curving perfectly. And just when you thought it might stop short, it vanished right into the cup. Another ace, another skipped ace, on video in slow motion. And on his birthday, you couldn't script that. 2 aces, 2 skips, 2 jaw-dropping moments that didn't even make the scorecard but became instant Masters legends. Now at number 23, imagine this. You're standing on the 18th green at Augusta National, a light rain falling, the green jacket within reach. You line up a 25-foot birdie putt, the kind you dream about as a kid, knowing it's your chance to make history. That's exactly where Adam Scott found himself at the 2013 Masters. But what happened next? It took a turn no one expected. Scott was chasing more than a win. Australia had never seen one of its own claim the Masters. And after years of heartbreak, including Scott's own collapse at the 2012 Open, this moment was about redemption. But then came Angel Cabrera. The 2009 Masters champion, nicknamed El Pato, wasn't done yet. Calm and composed, Cabrera landed a brilliant approach shot on the 18th, setting up a clutch birdie to force a playoff. The rain picked up, the tension thickened, and suddenly the green jacket was still up for grabs. The playoff began back on the 18th. Both players made pars, refusing to give an inch. Then it was on to the 10th hole, one of Augusta's most iconic and treacherous. Both drives found the fairway, but Scott's approach shot was the difference, landing just 15 feet from the hole. Cabrera left himself a tougher putt, missing his chance for birdie. Now it was Scott's moment. The gallery fell silent as he stood over his putt, the weight of a nation on his shoulders once again. With a smooth stroke, he sent the ball rolling and into the center of the cup. History was made. Which brings us to number 22. When it comes to unforgettable moments in golf, Tiger Woods' insane chip-in on the 16th hole at the 2005 Masters is in a league of its own. By that point, Tiger was already a living legend. But this shot? It was something only Tiger could pull off. He was locked in a tight battle with Chris DeMarco during the final round, holding on to a slim one-stroke lead. But then, after his tee shot flew past the green, things were looking shaky. Now, here's where it gets wild. Tiger's ball was stuck in the rough with thick grass all around and a tricky, sloping green ahead, a shot most would struggle with. Even CBS commentator Lanny Wadkins couldn't believe the challenge, saying that if Tiger got the ball within 15 feet, it would be a huge win. Then, Tiger steps up to the ball, lines it up like he's done a million times before, and with that signature smooth swing, he lets it fly. The ball pops off the club face, sailing through the air, and then it hits the green. But not just anywhere, it lands in exactly the right spot, high up on the slope. And that's where the magic begins. The ball starts rolling slowly towards the hole. It keeps rolling, and you can feel the energy building as it gets closer, closer. Then, boom, it reaches the cup. And what does it do? It stops, right on the edge. The whole world gasps. It's like time freezes. Seconds feel like minutes. And just when it seems like it might stay there forever, gravity finally kicks in. Bam! It drops. The crowd explodes, people are losing their minds. Tiger just pulled off what seemed impossible. And the way that ball paused on the lip, it was like golf's version of a dramatic mic drop. Rolling in at number 21, we've got Larry Mize versus Greg Norman in the 1987 Masters. And oh boy, is this one going to hurt if you're a Greg Norman fan. This one actually starts with 3 players in the mix: Seve Ballesteros, Greg Norman, and Larry Mize. But Seve bows out after the first playoff hole, leaving the stage set for a dramatic duel between Norman and Mize. Then comes the moment that would haunt Norman for years. Now, let's set the scene. It's the second playoff hole, the par 4 11th at Augusta's Amen Corner. Norman is in prime position, safely on the green with a putt for birdie. Meanwhile, Mize, he's 140 feet away from the pin, sitting in a scruffy patch of fairway with an awkward lie. But then, Mize pulls off the unthinkable. He takes his wedge, strikes it clean, and the ball starts rolling, a perfect line straight toward the hole. And then, it drops dead center. Larry Mize just chipped in for the win. Unbelievable. The crowd explodes into chaos. Norman's standing there in shock, and just like that, a local Augusta boy becomes Masters champion. Coming in at number 20 is a moment so perfect, so absurdly cinematic, it felt like Augusta turned into a Hollywood set. It was the final hole of the 2022 Masters. Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa had both found themselves in the exact same greenside bunker on 18. Awkward lie, tricky angle, Sunday pressure. You'd think they'd be playing defense. Nope. Rory steps up first. He splashes it out and the ball starts tracking, rolling, curling, and then boom, it drops. Hole out birdie. The crowd erupts. Rory throws his club, screams to the heavens, and sprints out of the bunker like he'd just won the lottery. The crowd's still buzzing, and now it's Morikawa's turn, and everyone's thinking, there's no way this happens twice. But it does. Morikawa hits his shot, and it's deja vu. Same slope, same speed, same result. Another hole out from the same bunker, back to back. The crowd lost their minds. People were jumping like they'd just seen a UFO land on the green. Grown adults were high-fiving strangers. Even Rory looked like he couldn't believe what just happened. Like, did we just break golf? Two superstars, two impossible shots, one shared bunker, and one unforgettable ending. But wait until you hear about what Louis Oosthuizen did at the 2012 Masters. We're at Augusta National, one of golf's most sacred grounds. It's the final round, and Louis is standing on the second tee, ready to take on a par 5 that's already tested the nerves of legends. He steps up, takes a swing, and sends the ball soaring down the fairway with his driver. It's a beauty, straight, powerful, and lands perfectly in position, setting him up for an approach most players could only dream of. And then comes the moment that would go down in history. Louis is now 253 yards from the hole. He pulls out his 4-iron. Most players would just hope to get the ball somewhere on the green from this distance. But Louis? He's about to do something that only 3 other players had ever done at the Masters. His shot hits the front of the green perfectly, and then the ball starts rolling, tracking toward the flag, and suddenly it disappears into the hole. An albatross, the rarest score in golf. The crowd erupts. Even the usually stoic Louis can't help but smile. In one incredible moment, he just made the first double eagle ever on the second hole at Augusta. Next, number 18. Bubba Watson's 2012 Masters playoff moment? Oh, that's the stuff legends are made of. Picture this. Bubba's on the 10th hole at Augusta National, sudden death playoff, and his tee shot goes wild, straight into the trees. For most golfers, even the greats, this is the point where you're throwing in the towel. But Bubba, no way. He was just getting started. He's standing 164 yards out, surrounded by dogwoods and pine trees, with barely a sliver of the green in sight. The ball's sitting up on pine straw, and what does Bubba do? He taps into that magic only he's got. Instead of playing it safe like everyone's expecting, he starts visualizing this insane hook shot that would make any golfer's jaw drop. Even Nick Faldo, calling it from the booth, is pretty much saying, yeah, no chance. But Bubba? Oh, Bubba had a plan. With his 52-degree ping wedge in hand, he sets up almost perpendicular to the green. Yeah, perpendicular. He closes his stance and lets it rip. The ball shoots off the pine straw and starts curving so hard it looks like it's bending the rules of golf itself. Time feels like it's standing still as it snakes through the trees. And then, bam! It lands just 15 feet from the pin. It was one of those shots that you've got to see to believe. A simple 2-putt later, Bubba's wearing his first green jacket, leaving everyone completely speechless. That moment didn't just win him the Masters, it cemented him as one of golf's unorthodox geniuses. Sliding into number 17, and this is a moment that left the entire sports world completely speechless. Imagine being written off by almost everyone. Your career seemingly over, your body broken, and your personal life in shambles. No one believes you'll ever compete at the highest level again. Then, against all odds, you step back onto golf's biggest stage and pull off the most unbelievable comeback in sports history. That's exactly what Tiger Woods did at the 2019 Masters. Let's set the scene. Tiger Woods, once untouchable, had faced an unimaginable fall from grace. 4 back surgeries, personal scandals, a DUI arrest in 2017. Many thought his career was over. But at Augusta National, the place where his legacy began, Tiger reminded the world why he's one of the greatest. The final round was pure drama. As the back nine unfolded, it was anyone's game. Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and Xander Schauffele all made strong charges. But Woods, with his signature calm under pressure, navigated the chaos with a steady hand. By the time he tapped in for par on the 18th, he had secured a one-shot victory and his 15th major title. And then came the moment no one will ever forget. The embrace with his mother, the hug with his two kids, who had never seen their dad win a major. It was impossible not to think back to 1997 when a 21-year-old Tiger celebrated his first Masters win with his late father. This wasn't just a win, it was a full-circle moment. 22 years in the making. Now, number 16. Well, it was supposed to be his moment. Greg Norman had been chasing the green jacket for years, and in 1996, it finally looked like fate had lined everything up. 3 rounds in, he was unstoppable. A course record 63 on Thursday, a 6-shot lead heading into Sunday. Norman didn't just have a cushion, he had a fortress. But Augusta doesn't care about storylines, and Sunday didn't play favorites. It started with a missed putt, then a drive into the trees. A few more holes passed, and suddenly that 6-shot lead wasn't so comfortable. Nick Faldo, ever the silent assassin, just kept grinding, quietly erasing the gap, one par, one birdie at a time. By the time they reached Amen Corner, something had changed. Norman's shoulders slumped. His swing lost its edge. The man who once walked with swagger now looked like he was just trying to survive. Then came the back nine. Splash on 12, 3-putt on 15. The nightmare was in full swing. Norman shot a 78 and watched a 6-shot lead turn into a 5-shot loss. When it was over, Faldo didn't celebrate. He felt the intense pain of Norman and walked straight over to him. Not as a rival, but as a fellow human who had just witnessed a man collapse in front of millions. He wrapped Norman in a quiet hug and simply said, "I don't know what to say." Coming in at number 15. It was all going too perfectly. That's the thing about Augusta. It doesn't warn you, it just waits. Rory McIlroy was 21, leading wire to wire, smiling his way through Augusta National like he owned the place. After 3 rounds of near-flawless golf, he'd built a 4-shot cushion heading into Sunday. The headlines were basically written. A new king is crowned. The future is now. The Masters has a new golden boy. And for 9 holes, that dream stayed intact. He turned in 37. Nothing flashy, but still in control. But then came the back 9, and Augusta did what Augusta does. The 10th hole, a long, bending par 4, hit first. A wild tee shot led to a triple bogey. Okay, still time. But what followed wasn't just bad golf. It was a total nightmare. Bogey at 11. Then disaster at the 12th. Nerves, indecision, and a double bogey on one of the shortest holes on the course. Then his tee shot on 13, wet. By the time he walked off that green, the lead had vanished, the crowd was stunned silent, and McIlroy looked like a ghost of the player we'd watched for 3 days. He carded an 80, the worst round of the day, and finished tied for 15th. Well, sometimes golf breaks you before it builds you. Next, number 14. The world of golf changed forever in 1997 when 21-year-old Tiger Woods set the Masters tournament on fire. Tiger became the youngest player in history to win, and not just by a little bit. He absolutely crushed the competition with an unbelievable 12-stroke victory. Let that sink in, gentlemen. 12 strokes. To this day, no one's even come close to that kind of blowout at the Masters. He was tearing through that field like he'd been doing it for decades, leaving everyone else looking like amateurs. Golf Digest even called it the dawn of dominance, and oh man, were they right. Tiger stormed through all 4 rounds, but the moment that sealed the deal, his insane 3rd round 65 going 7 under. That's when the rest of the field probably realized, yeah, we're done here. By the time the final round rolled around, Tiger was untouchable. When it was all said and done, Woods lifted his first ever Masters trophy, and, more importantly, he had rewritten golf history by the end of that day. And the crazy part? The world knew this was just the beginning of something legendary. Over the next 20 years, Tiger didn't disappoint, collecting 15 major titles and sitting right behind the GOAT himself, Jack Nicklaus. And now we're with unlucky number 13. It wasn't supposed to happen. Not to him, not here, not like this. Jordan Spieth wasn't just leading the 2016 Masters, he was cruising. The defending champ, already a two-time major winner at just 22, was halfway through his final round with a 5-shot lead. The green jacket looked like it was already hanging in his locker. But then, he turned into Amen Corner, and Augusta turned on him. It started with a bogey on 10. No big deal. A little stumble. Then another on 11. Okay, starting to wobble. But when he stepped onto the tee at 12, that's when everything shattered. His tee shot? Splash. Right into Rays Creek. The drop? Splash again. Panic creeping in. Then a flubbed bunker shot. Then more chaos. And just like that, Spieth wrote down a 7 on a hole where most players hit 7 irons. In less than half an hour, the golden boy of golf went from leading by 5 to trailing by 3. It didn't look real. People were staring at their TVs, blinking like their eyes were playing tricks on them. This was supposed to be his moment, his back-to-back Masters win, the start of a dynasty. Instead, it became the collapse that defined an era. What made it so brutal wasn't just the scorecard carnage, it was who it happened to. Spieth was supposed to be untouchable, calm, unshakable, the guy who could walk through fire and come out smiling. But Augusta doesn't care about your resume. And on that Sunday, it reminded the world, no one is safe from Amen Corner. Here we are with number 12. Let me tell you, this is Bryson DeChambeau at maximum Bryson. Fresh off his US Open beatdown and feeling like the Hulk with a driver, Bryson waltzed into Augusta National and said the quiet part way too loud. For me, Augusta's a par 67. That's right, not 72. Not even 70, 67. Why? Because he could hit it so far, he figured the par 5s were tap-in birdies, and even a few par 4s weren't safe. He basically told the golf world, this course, it's cute. Golf fans gasped. Augusta traditionalists clutched their pearls. And the golf gods? Oh, they were listening. Because what followed wasn't domination. It was a public golf course beatdown. Bryson looked like a man trying to speedrun Augusta with cheat codes, and the game glitched hard. He was wild off the tee, couldn't find a fairway to save his life, and even lost a ball on hole 3. In the rough near the fairway, like it vanished, gone. He complained about dizziness. He looked confused, but Augusta didn't care. That course wiped the confidence right off his face and gave him a big old reality check. By the end of it all, the man who called it a par 67 didn't even make the cut. He shot 74-74 and packed his bags early. Moral of the story? You don't walk into Augusta, trash talk the course, and expect it to roll over. Augusta hears you. And if you're not careful, it'll turn your par 67 into a personal crisis. Next up, number 11. The Masters is known for testing the nerves of even the greatest golfers, but in 2016, Ernie Els faced a nightmare that no golfer could prepare for. A moment so surreal, it felt like Augusta itself was out to get him. It was the very first hole of his round, usually a time for setting the tone and finding a rhythm. Els, a seasoned veteran with major titles under his belt, approached the green with confidence, ready to open his tournament on the right foot. But then, something unusual happened. He lined up his putt, likely visualizing an easy start. But as his putter made contact, something felt off. His ball rolled toward the hole, only to veer just wide. Surprised but undeterred, he set up again, expecting a simple tap-in. Yet, the ball missed again. And again. Each attempt seemed to defy him more, turning a straightforward putt into a slow-motion disaster. By the time he finally sank the putt, Els had taken an unthinkable 6 strokes just to hole out, recording a painful 10 on that opening par 4. A brutal sight for fans as the dreaded yips seemed to grip him in front of Augusta's quiet, watching crowd. Moral of the story? When the yips show up, even a champion like Ernie is in for a wild ride. All right, on to the next. Number 10 takes us back to the 1989 nightmare of Augusta National. Scott Hawk had the green jacket within his grasp during a playoff against Nick Faldo on the treacherous 10th hole. With Faldo stumbling to a bogey, the door was wide open for Scott. 2 putts from 30 feet would secure his first major championship. Simple enough, right? Not at Augusta. Scott's first putt wasn't ideal, leaving him just under 3 feet for the win. But it was that second putt, less than 3 feet, that turned into one of golf's most infamous moments. The pressure of potentially winning the Masters seemed to freeze him in place. He studied the putt for what felt like an eternity, circling it from every angle like he was analyzing a masterpiece. Front, back, side to side. If drones existed then, he might have gotten an aerial view. The longer he stood over it, the more daunting that 3-footer became. Finally, he took the stroke. And in the cruelest twist of fate, Scott made the ultimate pressure mistake. He both played for break and hit it too firmly. The ball blasted past the hole, rolling 5 feet beyond. Though he composed himself enough to drain the comebacker and extend the playoff, the damage was done. His confidence had evaporated. On the next hole, sensing the moment, Faldo struck like a shark smelling blood in the water. He buried a 25-foot birdie putt, clinching the victory and leaving Scott as yet another tragic what-if at Augusta. But wait until you hear about number 9, because in 2021, Billy Horschel gave us not one, but 2 moments that had golf purists clutching their pearls at the sacred grounds of Augusta National. The Masters tournament is golf's equivalent of a black tie dinner. Everything's supposed to be proper, pristine, and perfect. Well, somebody forgot to tell Billy that. It started on the 7th hole during the 3rd round. Horschel, clearly frustrated with his play, decided his golf bag needed a bit of percussion practice. The cameras caught him repeatedly slamming his wedge into his bag with the kind of fury usually reserved for drummers and heavy metal bands. But that was just the opening act. Later in the tournament, Horschel found himself facing a shot from the famous Rays Creek on the 13th hole. Now, most players would take their medicine and a penalty drop. Not Billy. He decided to channel his inner creek warrior, taking off his shoes and socks, rolling up his pristine white pants, and wading in. What happened next? Well, let's just say that Augusta National slopes are slippery when wet. Down he went, creating a moment that instantly went viral and had the golf gods shaking their heads in disbelief. Coming in at number 8. Well, he was just 2 holes away. That's it. Kenny Perry, at 48 years old, was about to make history as the oldest player to ever win the Masters. The crowd was buzzing, the commentators were practically writing the headlines. And Perry? He looked calm, collected, like a man in total control. But then, Augusta did what Augusta does. On 17, with a short iron in hand, Perry just needed to hit the green. Instead, he flared it wide right. Still, no big deal, right? Just a simple chip to save par. But what followed wasn't a tour-level chip. It wasn't even a Sunday golfer chip. He bladed it, hard, the kind of shot that makes you gasp and pretend you didn't see it. Suddenly, the wheels were wobbling. On 18, needing par to win, Perry again came up short. Another missed green, another missed opportunity, and just like that, we were headed to a playoff. But the bleeding didn't stop there. While Angel Cabrera found a way to hang in, Perry missed yet another green. And this time, the dream officially died. After the dust settled, Perry didn't make excuses. He stood in front of the cameras and said, "Great players make it happen, and your average players don't." Brutally honest, painfully humble. It was a collapse that left golf fans heartbroken, stunned, and oddly admiring. Because while Perry didn't slip on the green jacket, he walked away wearing something else: respect. Here we are at number 7. Just a year after his incredible 2019 Masters victory, Tiger Woods returned to Augusta in 2020. But this time, he faced a moment that no one, especially not a 5-time Masters champion, could have expected. So here's what happened. It was the infamous 12th hole, right in the heart of Amen Corner, a stretch that has crushed many Masters dreams. As Woods lined up his shot, Rays Creek waited ominously in front, almost daring him to take it on. He took his swing and the ball drifted left, landing straight in the water. A mistake, but one he could recover from. Woods reset for his next shot, determined to put it behind him. But shockingly, his ball found the creek again. A 3rd attempt? Same outcome. 3 times in a row, Woods watched as his ball plunged into the creek's magnetic pull, with each splash amplifying the tension among fans and broadcasters. On his 4th attempt, Woods finally cleared the creek, only for his ball to find the bunker. After a tricky escape from the sand, he finally got onto the green, but only after 8 strokes. A couple of putts later, he walked off the 12th with a 10, his highest single-hole score in Masters history. Amen Corner doesn't play favorites. Even Tiger wasn't safe from its curse that day. Next, number 6. Not every unforgettable blunder at the Masters comes from a player. In 2019, a security guard at Augusta National became an accidental star, and not for the best reasons. The incident took place on the 14th hole, a critical point in Tiger Woods' round as he was making his way out of the trees on the left side of the fairway. Woods, having just nailed an impressive shot, was moving along, fully in the zone, but then the unexpected happened. The guard, intending to protect Woods from an enthusiastic crowd, rushed to hold fans back and accidentally slipped on the damp grass. What was supposed to be a quick block turned into a dramatic slide straight toward Woods, his foot nearly colliding with one of the world's most famous golfers. In the heat of the moment, fans could barely believe what they were witnessing. Imagine a crunching tackle more suited to soccer than a golf green. Vinnie Jones himself would have probably given an approving nod to the guard's unintentional move. And let's not forget the split-second horror as people held their breath, hoping the legend wouldn't get hurt. Luckily, Woods emerged unscathed, only needing a moment to shake off the surprise. As the guard awkwardly recovered, Woods simply got back to business and went on to win the Masters that year. Looks like that guard's best save of the day was not injuring Tiger. Too bad not everyone has that amount of luck. Which brings us to number 5. They say Augusta National has a way of exposing your weaknesses. But for Tsuneyuki Tommy Nakajima, it didn't just expose them, it put them on a billboard. It was 1978, his very first Masters appearance, and Nakajima was doing just fine until he reached the par 5 13th. Rays Creek was waiting, as it always is, quiet, still, and deadly. Nakajima's tee shot wasn't terrible. His second, risky. And then came the disaster. His ball trickled into the water, just barely. Instead of taking a drop, he did something bold, something brave, something that would haunt him forever. He waded in and tried to play the shot straight out of the creek, and it went exactly how you're imagining. The club slapped the water, the ball stayed put. A second penalty followed, then another. Before anyone could process what they were witnessing, Nakajima had racked up a 13, the worst score in Masters history at the time. And just when you thought the golf gods might ease up, they didn't. A few months later at the British Open on the infamous 17th at St. Andrews, Nakajima found himself trapped in a bunker and took 4 swings to escape. That one hole cost him 5 strokes and gave birth to a cruel new phrase, the Sands of Nakajima. 2 legendary courses, 2 unforgettable disasters, 1 brutal year. No player ever dreams of being remembered for a meltdown, but Nakajima's double dose of disaster etched his name into golf history in exactly the way he didn't want. Coming in at number 4, which brings us Ed Snead at the 1979 Masters, who wasn't so lucky. After maintaining a comfortable lead throughout most of the tournament and beginning the final round with a 5-stroke advantage, Snead looked destined to slip on his first green jacket. With just 3 holes to play, he still held a 3-shot lead. Simple math says you can bogey every hole and still win, right? Well, that's exactly what Snead did, and incredibly, it wasn't enough. What followed was one of the most agonizing finishes in Masters history. 3 straight bogeys, each one more painful than the last. On the 16th, his par putt caught the edge and spun out. On 17, same story. The ball teased the hole before refusing to drop. It was as if the golf gods were playing a cruel joke, watching those putts dance around the cup before staying out, like they were toying with Snead's dreams. By the time he reached the 18th hole, you could see the weight of the moment crushing him. His final par putt to win the Masters stopped just inches from glory. The playoff loss to Fuzzy Zoeller that followed was just the final twist of the knife, Fuzzy becoming the first rookie to win the Masters since Gene Sarazen in 1935. Some say you can still hear Snead's sighs echoing through the Augusta pines. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it really is a wake-up call to remember that in golf, no lead is ever truly safe, even when simple math tells you otherwise. Sliding into our top 3, here we are with CBS broadcaster Gary McCord, who learned the hard way that at Augusta National, some things are better left unsaid. See, if the Masters tournament is golf's equivalent of a black tie dinner, the Augusta National Golf Club is the Royal Palace, where tradition reigns supreme and every word spoken is expected to match the prestige of the green jacket itself. But in 1994, Gary McCord maybe didn't know that. It started during a late afternoon broadcast. McCord was in the booth doing his usual colorful commentary when he spotted an advertisement in a magazine during a commercial break. It was for the Golden Door Spa, listing various treatments including, of all things, bikini waxes. This gave him an idea for what he thought would be a clever description of Augusta's notoriously slick greens. He said they were so fast they looked like they'd been bikini waxed. Innocent enough, right? Wrong. The members at Augusta National Golf Club were not amused. But wait, it gets better. He then referred to the mounds behind one of the greens as body bags. That was the final straw. The next thing McCord knew, he was persona non grata at golf's most prestigious event. Banned, exiled, never to return to the Masters broadcast booth again. All because of a bikini wax reference and some body bags. That was a tough crowd. And here we are at number 2. It's 2018, and Sergio Garcia, the defending Masters champion, stepped onto Augusta's 15th hole with confidence, hoping to carry on the magic from his 2017 victory. But in a matter of moments, that confidence would crumble, and his round would unravel into one of the most jaw-dropping meltdowns Augusta had ever seen. A scene so painful that fans couldn't decide whether to watch or look away. So, what the heck happened? Well, the 15th hole, known as Firethorn, is usually a chance for birdies, maybe even an eagle. But it comes with Augusta's trademark risks. Garcia's first approach shot looked good, until it spun back, trickling down the slope and plunging into the water. Frustrated but undeterred, Garcia dropped another ball, determined to make it count. He took his shot, and yet again, it hit the green, only to roll back down and splash into the hazard. Now visibly rattled, he tried a third time, then a fourth. Each time, the ball seemed cursed, stubbornly finding its way back to the water. By the 5th shot, it was no longer just frustrating, it was painful to watch. Fans around the green shifted uneasily as one of the best golfers in the world battled a hole that had turned into his worst nightmare. Finally, after 5 balls had taken the same watery fate, Garcia managed to land one safely on the green. But by then, the damage was done. A series of agonizing putts later, he tapped in for a staggering 13 on the hole, tying the record for the highest single-hole score in Masters history. It wasn't just a bad hole, it was a complete collapse on the very course where he had been a hero just a year earlier. Now, here it is, the number 1 spot on the list. And this one has to be the most embarrassing moment in golf history. This time, it's Argentine golfer Roberto De Vicenzo taking center stage in a story that still stings to this day. So here's the situation. De Vicenzo had just finished an incredible round of 65, putting himself in perfect position for a playoff. But his playing partner, Tommy Aaron, mistakenly marked him down for a par 4 on the 17th hole instead of the birdie 3 that De Vicenzo had actually made. Unaware of the error, De Vicenzo signed his scorecard, thereby making the incorrect score official. Now in golf, the rule is clear. Players are fully responsible for their own scorecards, and once you sign it, that's it. So signing for a higher score means that score stands. As a result, De Vicenzo's official score was recorded as 66 instead of 65, leaving him just one painful stroke behind Bob Golby, who was declared the winner. This incident cost De Vicenzo a spot in a playoff for the championship. When he realized the mistake, his reaction was both humble and unforgettable. He simply said, "What a stupid I am." Not exactly how you want to remember your 45th birthday. Oh, and now you're still here. We have another great golf video for you right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.